I had a really, really freaky coincidence earlier today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just finished reading The Cabin at the End of the World, which is the basis of the new M. Night Shyamalan movie Knock at the Cabin.
Okay.
I would say book edges it out a little bit. They're very different, which I don't know, doesn't mean one's better than the other, but they're just different. But anyway, in the book, there's a chapter. So it's like it's about a married gay couple and their adopted daughter, and there's like a chapter that starts and it's talking about their daughter, and there's just like an episode of Adventure Time playing on the TV, but he references what's happening in the episode of Adventure Time, and he's like, in this episode, Lumpy Space Princess is upset because someone knocked over her can of beans, and that's the only bit. But and Chloe's a big Adventure Time fan, so I was like, "Oh, huh, isn't this funny? They reference it. Do you know this episode?" And then I said, "I guarantee you, the next time we go to watch Adventure Time, that's going to be the episode that we like left off on, like we're about to watch." And this has happened to us before, where we'll watch something where something else has like referenced it, and then like that episode comes on, or that episode references the same thing. Without fail, we watched Adventure Time this morning, and that was like the next episode that was up.
Spooky.
I paused it and I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Like what? I don't know. I don't know if you guys have experienced any sort of weirdo coincidences like that, but like
I don't know.
It happens quite frequently with us, where reading about something or watching something, or even like hearing about something, and then something that we're watching will reference it.
That last thing will happen to me for sure. Like I'll discover a new song or something like that, and then I'll start hearing it everywhere, or hear about a book or something like that and hear that pop up. I think there actually is, for that specifically, there is some sort of like, there is like a name
like
for
a
that.
Name for it.
Yeah, I don't know what, but there is a name for that specifically. But the other stuff, I don't know. I don't know if that's ever happened to me, like
spooky.
Reference, and then that's like the next thing that I was watching or whatever. But
yeah, it's, I don't know how it happens, but it's so strange.
It's pretty spooky.
Yeah.
And that's the shit that people go towards, where like prove that we're like living in the Matrix or something like that, some shit like that.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Simulation, man.
Yeah.
I've had like dreams that happened in real life sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? But like the dream happened before the real life event happened. Otherwise, I would just be dreaming about something that happened.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's like I've had dreams that have like coincided with external factors.
Whoa.
Like I think I told that story on the podcast a while ago now, but I had a dream that there was like someone in our house. And
right. Yeah.
I like went to grab a kitchen knife, and I was like going down the hallway, and I was running, and the figure came out, and as soon as I like went to stab the figure in the dream, Chloe like shook me awake.
You were stabbing her.
Yeah, I'm like, covered in blood.
Yeah.
But, it's like, when lightning strikes in a dream and lightning strikes in real life, like, how does your brain perceive those things to, like, make that all happen? Shit is crazy.
Crazy things.
Simulation.
Shoot him in the brains.
Welcome back to ThereWillBeDuds. This is episode 96 of ThereWillBeDuds, and I am your co-host, TJ, aka J-Spot Jack Cheese, and with me as always,
I am Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch, and with me, as always,
I am Tommy, aka Moose, from the game.
And as always, we watched a movie. That movie this week being Miller's Crossing from 1990, directed by the Coen brothers. It follows Tom, a heavy and enforcer for the Irish mob. He gets kind of tangled in this situation where the rival gang wants to take out the brother of the mob boss's girlfriend, who Tom is also seeing behind the mob boss's back. But the mob boss is like, no, he's got my protection because he's, my girlfriend's brother or whatever. But then Tom kind of he gets in hot water with him, and then he's kind of weasels his way into the Italian mob, and then sort of a roundabout way kind of like whittles down the Irish mob from the inside, kind of, and also some of the Irish or the Italian mob. I don't know. There's a lot of you got it. That's pretty much it. That's Miller's Crossing. What'd you guys think?
Lots of double crosses, lots of love triangles, but also maybe hate triangles.
Yeah.
I since this is a Prohibition era movie, I got a little whiskey.
Smart.
Yeah, smart.
So I feel like I'm the resident Coen Brothers enjoyer of the podcast. I think I more or less am pretty stoked on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like this movie too, but above mid for me. Not to bury the lead a little bit, but some stuff I really liked, some stuff I was like a little meh about. The performances, I think, were really they're Coen Brothers characters, and I tend to like Coen Brothers characters a lot. Their stories are always populated by those types of character actors that you like. Oh yeah, I've seen that guy in something.
Mm-hmm.
They are chock full of them.
Yeah,
and so I really enjoyed it. I think the Dane is probably one of my favorite Coen Brothers villains, kind of up there with he's like an Anton Chigurh figure almost.
Just
from,
very
No
cold
Country.
and collected. Yeah.
I had a good time with it though. I'm curious what you thought about it, Moose.
I had a blast. I was like,
oh,
I loved the way that they talked to each other. Very a lot of witty banter happened in this movie.
Yeah,
and I love some banter that is witty.
There was a death. The Rug character died, and the first good laugh was when the little kid is just staring at the body and he takes his toupee and runs, which is so funny because that moment has rippling effects.
Yeah.
Where they're like, well, they took his hair.
Yeah.
Oh, those sons of bitches. Oh, those bastards. They took his hair.
Yeah.
But I just loved the way that I think is it Leo? I think Leo tells Tom, Rug's dead, and he's like, rip. Rug, rip. It was almost like a play on words, but it was just very very cold and calculating and callous, but still being very witty and funny.
Yeah. I feel like I more or less am in line with Nick, how I felt about it. I did like the characters. Like I said, they've always got a good, interesting cast of characters. They always have their snappy Coen dialogue, which, Moose, if you haven't seen any of their stuff before and you really like how everyone talks, I'd check out anything else by them pretty much. Because they are very they do have a very unique style of writing dialogue. The standouts for me, I loved John Turturro. He's always a fun, Bernie Birnbaum, which is kind of like what we call our cat Bernard, because we just call him Bernie Bum Bum Burn Burn. He was great, playing that typical weaselly John Turturro character that he does so well. And then but I think my favorite was Albert Finney as Leo, just because he's one of those guys that I just love seeing in anything. He's always he's just he's one of those guys, that just makes anything better that he's in.
I really loved badass moments.
I loved the way that it was sort of set. I think if you're watching a movie, you're like, oh, okay, this is the part where his character gets whacked. This is a mobster movie. No one's sacred, really. You know, because I was reading the liner notes of the Criterion version of this movie, and like this movie, Goodfellas, and The King of New York all came out in like the same year. So
Oh, really?
kind of like three, kind of different mob movies, but three
sure.
pretty like prominent ones that kind of define a genre, if you will. But with other mob stuff, it's like no character is really sacred, and like you kind of expect, oh yeah, this guy's gonna die off. He's kind of older, it would make sense, but no, he sees that smoke rising through the floor, and he's like, huh, like kind of contemplating it. And then he just grabs his gun, rolls under the bed, and blows the dude's shin off, and then pops him in the head.
Yeah.
And it's like the violence in this. The violence in this movie is in equal parts cartoonish and funny, and then very real and graphic.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly how I felt about it. Because, like, yeah, there was like that moment in particular where, it's very brutal, and yet, like, 10 seconds later, he's like unloading that Tommy gun like he's Arnold at the end of fucking Commando. Like, doesn't have to reload or anything. He just holds down the trigger and just lets fly.
Yeah.
And
even like the scene before that, I was like, this dude is spry. He climbs out the window and like rolls off the roof and then lands on his feet and then just takes the Tommy gun and walks down the street and doesn't even flinch at being fired back upon.
Yeah. And then he gets a cigar back in his mouth at the very end. Like, it feels very like serious crime noir where you're like edging more towards something like No Country for Old Men or whatever, and yet you have those moments like that, so where it's like it is kind of like a middling sort of like middling between the genres, where it's like, not quite fully one way or the other. It kind of dips its toes into both,
Which genres are we talking about?
Like a crime drama noir, and then I guess more of like I don't want to say like outright comedy, but like an action, like a more silly action kind of thing.
Something like John Wick 4.
Sure, I guess, yeah. A 1920s John Wick 4, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like for the Coen brothers, that's kind of their cup of tea. These really brutal, real violent moments followed by, in some movies more so than others, just like, very real violence. Like, again, I think of Burn After Reading, the very famous Brad Pitt scene, if you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for Moose if he's into
But there's even in the movies that are like ostensibly, more or less strict comedies, there's like gratuitous violence that happens throughout. So it's definitely in their wheelhouse.
Another great example of like the brutal violence mixing with like the silliness was Sam Raimi's cameo, which was like my favorite moment of the whole movie. Moose, he's the guy. They bomb this building. There's like all the police force. They're like across the street.
And then the guy
walks out
and gets shot.
So Sam Raimi is the guy that shoots him, and then he immediately gets like lit up. And I got a kick out of that because I like it's focusing on Sam Raimi so much. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's him. That's his little cameo. And then he just gets like obliterated. That was really good.
Moose, Sam Raimi directed like the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, he's a director.
Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man movies.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you knew who he was or, but it was a great cameo. And then almost immediately after is the Frances McDormand cameo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which like,
and they have that shot where like Gabriel Byrne like checks out her, I'm gonna use quotation marks here, ass. And I was like, that seems a little weird. Like, it felt like since she's just in that little part, it felt a little bit like I forget
she's
which
married
one,
to one of the directors.
Yeah, which one it is that they like focus. They're like, I'm gonna have this shot of this guy checking out my wife's ass.
Yeah, because she's like a lead in Blood Simple, their first movie.
Yeah.
Which character is she?
In this, she's like the secretary for the mayor. She's got like the red hair and the
Yeah. I noticed that. I was like, we're paying a lot of attention to this secretary.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also, during that scene, I was like, damn, even in 1929, like, the police are super over militarized. Like, they
Yeah.
pull off, like, the cloak off of, like a Gatling gun almost, and they're just, like, lighting up a storefront.
Yeah.
Insane.
I also liked the Casper character. I thought he was really funny.
The Italian mob boss. Yeah, that guy's. He was another guy who was like in a ton of stuff, but
I think he's like the private detective in The Big Lebowski. That's like, there's a scene later on when like he's been following the dude around, and he finally confronts him, and he's like, I just love your work, man, and he's just like, get out of here. But he's just instantly recognizable as one of those guys. But what was his thing? He's like, you're not giving me the hi-hat. Something about the hi-hat. I loved like all the like the 1920s isms.
Yeah. Like
there's
the
a
dude.
few.
The Dane is
speaking
like
of those isms, I feel like I learned a whole lot of more words for Jewish people after watching this movie.
Yeah.
What were the
Guineas,
the
Dagos.
Jewish ones? I mean, you don't have to
Because
say
everything
them,
they said about Bernie, I just assumed it was because he's Jewish.
He's
Italian.
something about like
Is
no
he Jewish?
Bernie. John
Birnbaum?
Turturro's,
Oh, John Turturro's Italian. I was thinking,
but
right,
his character
but the
is
character's
supposed
Jewish.
to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they call him like a schmeddle a lot. It's
Oh,
like
Schmada.
Schmada, or
Schmada,
Schmal
yeah.
or whatever. That's right.
Yeah.
I just thought that was just like a. I thought that was almost just like a, how Jewish people say like, oh, you yuts
They called
or
him
whatever.
a Heeb a bunch
Yeah,
of
he
times.
called-
Oh yeah, that's definitely
called him
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the liner notes of the Criterion have a good amount of them. Let it drift, dangle. What's the rumpus?
That was my favorite one.
I'll see where the twist flops. Don't smart me. Take it on the heel and toe. Jungled up. And I'm getting sick of the hi-hat.
My favorite.
a lot of hats.
Yeah. My favorite instance was when it's something like shortly after Tom switches over to the Italian side, and then I already forgot his name, but the Italian boss guy, Casper. He's like
Casper, yeah.
He's like, to the Dane. He's like, oh, you can't, no more of that. You guys are on the same side now. And the Dane's like, nuts. And that's like,
Yeah,
I could imagine
yeah.
at the time that's like, ooh, he just said
Oh, he means
nuts.
business.
Yeah,
He's
he's so tough, and he just goes nuts.
Yeah. Oh man, the Dane had some really good lines. I think my favorite was when they're walking Tom back out to verify the body, and he's like, "You ever notice how the snappy dialogue stops when
That was a good part.
when he's like soiling his union trousers or something like that?" Basically, just like, "Yeah, you're a smooth talker for now."
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was another pretty graphic thing.
Oh, the body.
The fake Bernie body.
Yeah.
It's like his face was blown off, and it was like, ugh, it was very
Jesus
realistic.
Christ.
That was Steve Buscemi, and I was like, oh, so we only got him for like one scene then. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
bummer.
I like that Steve Buscemi was kind of talking like a departed character when he meets Tom. He's like, yeah, but I'm talking like this. He reminded me of like of Alec Baldwin. It's like, oh yeah, what are you talking about, a health freak? Like like that kind of the pacing of that dialogue.
Right, yeah.
Or like an auctioneer almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, so I read the Wikipedia article for this movie. In the article, I think it says something about the Dane and Mink being lovers. Did
I
you
saw
pick
that.
up on that?
No, I was like,
Oh.
did I miss a lot? I mean, I guess I must have, because I read that too, and I was like, oh shit, was I like not paying attention to this movie? So I'm glad I'm not the only one who was kind of
If there
Looking
was, like,
back, I can see it.
Yeah.
Because the Dane came to the Mink's defense like a little too much.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, he is very, very like seemingly protective and defensive But yeah, I did not, and I didn't pick up on
we
any
didn't
sort
get a
of
scene
romantic.
of them together either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, but that, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them to just, like, have it mentioned or implied. So I don't know. Maybe it's just something
Yeah.
I don't know.
And maybe it's just something somebody put on Wikipedia.
That's yeah, could be that too. Yeah. I'll talk. How do you guys feel about the whole? Because this was a part that was kind of like bringing it down for me, is because I just didn't really care about it. But like the whole, like, Marcia Gay Harden's, pretty much her character in general, like that relationship and that character, I just wasn't like as interested in that, in the romance aspect of the movie. So
Are you talking about Verna? Is that who this actress is?
Verna.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the only, like, prominent female
Yeah.
part in the movie, I guess. Yeah, and like I get why she's there, obviously, like her relation to Bernie and all that, but there was also a lot that was like just her and Gabriel Byrne's, like, relationship and stuff, and I just it was just ho hum, I guess. And
Yeah, I didn't really see the what was happening there in that relationship,
yeah,
other than just like
they
they fucked.
it was too
You know?
it was too much of like, oh, I hate you, you rascal, and he's like, come here, toots, and then they make up, and then they wake up, and
And
she's
then she
like,
slaps
fuck
him.
you, and and then, like, doing that over and over again. So yeah, that was just kind of a that was my I think my biggest, like, gripe was just like how much was on that.
She kind of existed just to kind of get that, I guess what I could kind of see as, like, the thesis statement of the movie, when she's like talking to him about his dream, and she's like, oh yeah, and then what, you went and you grabbed the hat, and then it wasn't a hat, and it turned into something fantastical and wonderful, and he was like, no, he's like, there's no point in, like, chasing hats, which I think
Yeah.
is, like, I guess metaphorically maybe, like, Tom's character and, like, maybe the thesis statement of the movie itself. So it's like, yeah, and I guess her relationship kind of exists to, like, create the central conflict. But I feel like we went like 40 minutes without seeing her, and then she came back.
Yeah,
and I was like,
too,
oh yeah, I don't care about this one. She has the scene where she puts the gun under his face, and she's like, oh, you killed my brother. Oh, and then I feel like, again, you don't see her again until the funeral, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's kind of tidied up, but yeah, it didn't really do a whole lot for me. I mean, I thought her performance was fine, but
yeah, nothing against her in particular. Just the role wasn't that interesting, I guess.
Can we talk about the hat some more? Get a little deeper into that, because there was that shot at the beginning, while the credits were rolling, of like the hat just kind of.
This is exactly why we needed Moose back on the shows, to do deep dive into the minutia like this. No, more or less like what a boot it.
Happy to be back, boys. Yeah, I feel like we can't talk about this movie without talking about the hat, because then the very first thing is he lost his hat gambling. Actually, that's the second thing.
Yeah,
the first thing is Leo
true.
being real badass.
Yeah.
And like the sort of the end, I feel like, is like a reinforcement of that, where I guess my interpretation of, like, the whole idea is, like, I don't chase after hats, is like he's done. Like he's like got himself out of hot water and essentially gotten out of it scot-free. And I saw a hat as, like, referring to another person, like, oh yeah, there's another hat, like, as a guy. And he's like, I don't chase hats anymore. Like, so he's like, he doesn't chase after people. He's kind of like this isolated guy who doesn't really connect with anybody.
A lone wolf.
Yeah.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, it's like cutting out both Marcia Gay Harden's character and Albert Finney's character at the end. Maybe and it's just him trying to, like, Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like, is his idea that because now he's not in with either of the gangs. Is he gonna, like, move to another city and try to work his way in there? Is he gonna go straight, or I don't know.
Like he paid off his that is that is a very funny interpretation, that all of the violence and the bloodshed and the death was just so he could pay off a gambling debt.
Yeah.
And then he immediately gets the money and he's like, I'd like to place a bet. Like, he's gonna put all the money he just got that would, like, even him out, and he's gonna bet it all over again.
Yeah.
But this one's a sure thing.
Yeah. That scene when the Dane dies, I thought there was some really interesting, bordering on a weird cinematography.
Yes, I forgot to write that down. But really strange.
So the wrestler guy is just screaming. I don't know, is it because he's afraid of the Dane? I don't know what his deal is.
No, because he's still screaming after he's dead, unless I don't know.
Was he supposed to be, like, mentally handicapped or something?
No, because he talks to maybe
or, like,
impaired,
concussed many times.
Concussed or traumatized, maybe.
Because Tom talks to him, like, a couple scenes earlier, and he's just like, he's normal,
like,
talking.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think maybe the Dane, put the fear of God in it or something like that. But there's like a couple really weird, like, quick, almost like Evil Dead cam movements onto, like, Casper, and then it goes to, like, someone else, and then just really interesting, weird cinematography for that scene.
Strange, yeah.
And I thought the Dane's death was kind of a letdown. I wanted him to go out in a more badass fashion, I guess.
I have to disagree.
Okay.
He was beat in the fucking face with a shovel.
Yeah.
Like, that's a badass way to murder somebody.
Yeah, I guess I wanted him to be able. I wanted it to. I don't know. I guess I wanted it to be more fair. I feel like he kind of.
Oh yeah.
He kind of sucker punched him with, like, a fireplace shovel.
Yeah, I think I was okay with it. I like it. Like, that's something I like about. That's kind of another Coen Brothers thing. Is just, like, very abrupt, brutal kills, just kind of, like, out of nowhere. And so, I thought that played into their fashion very, very well. So I kind of liked it. I was okay with it. And then you don't even see Casper die. You just see his face, like, impaled on a support post or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I like that, like, John Turturro like, telegraphs his own death, because when he, like, goes to Gabriel Byrne's apartment earlier, he's like, oh, I know you're not gonna shoot me. He's like, even if you did, I'd get down on my knees and I'd plead and you'd let me go again. And then he, like, does that at the end. And then he still shoots him. And, like...
Yeah, so that's one thing that I didn't understand.
What?
Is why he didn't shoot Bernie in the first place, and then why he shot Bernie the second time.
I think he just didn't do it in the first place because he, like... because of his relation to to Verna or whatever. He's like, he still had some heart, I guess, at that point.
You think it was about Verna?
I think it's that, and also, like, I don't know, was he a killer, or was he just kind of like a, like, I don't know if he had,
I don't
like,
think killing was his job.
had he actually, like, killed people for the mob bosses before
I think
that?
his role was kind
or
of
was
being,
he just kind of, the muscle?
I think he was like a left hand to Leo, but kind of like an advisor, sort of like someone to bounce ideas off of.
Whisper in his ear, kind of a deal.
I think, the very first, lines of dialogue we get in the movie, although they're from Casper, Tom agrees with Casper, I think, in like wanting to get rid of Bernie, and Casper is talking about ethics, and
yes,
I think
ethics.
that resonates with Tom, and I think even though he is part of organized crime, I think Tom's character is like he's like kind of an ethical person, and I think that's why he spares Bernie. One, because of his relationship with Verna, but also I think he kind of has a little bit of a heart. He's like, this is shitty, which is ironic.
Yeah, it's not like very justified or whatever. It's just kind of like yeah.
It's part of and then I think he shows Bernie this act of kindness, and Bernie immediately uses it to blackmail him, and he's like, yeah, and if you don't do this, I'm gonna start going out to dinner.
Yeah,
just like basically threatening him, like, yeah, I'll go back out and prove that you didn't kill me.
I love that. I'm gonna start eating at restaurants, because it sounds like some sort of like mobster like euphemism. He's sleeping with the fishes, but he's literally just saying like, I'm gonna start eating at restaurants. But like,
yeah, literally.
So I think when he ultimately does, his relationship with Verna is pretty much trashed. Like, the only person that Bernie could rat him out to is gone, which is funny because Bernie's like, oh, the only guy that would care is dead now, so we don't have anything over each other.
Yeah,
and he's just like, I think Tom just saw him as a parasitic worm that he's like, you know what?
How does he know
you're
going to
be like
again?
this? Yeah.
I mean, I think it goes back into the ethics thing. It could just be that. It could be the same line of thinking, is like, I'm not going to kill him because I don't think it's ethical, or I don't think it's right at this point. But at the end, he's like, okay, well, he betrayed me and he blackmailed me.
Yeah.
So now I have every right to kill him, in my eyes. So, it didn't seem super out of character. And I don't know if this is, I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but like, it didn't seem out of character in either moment, like for him to not kill him and then for him to kill him. Like it made sense.
So like he was ready.
It made sense. Yeah. I think he's kind of he's definitely in a worse place at the end of the movie. He's in a darker place. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna kill this piece of shit.
Yeah, and I think that's like a common thread in Coen Brothers movies, where I think one of the criticisms is like a movie where nothing happens. And I think a lot of their movies, they don't have these character arcs that are like these huge changes in like, I'm a changed person and my outlook on the world is totally different. I think for a Coen Brothers movie, him kind of having a little bit of agency for himself and making his ethical choice to put down Bernie is basically his character arc. I think that's kind of where he's just like, okay, like, I'm done with this world now.
Yeah.
And the things that like led up to that caused that change were Bernie betraying him and him falling out with Verna.
I think so.
I suppose.
Yeah.
And just everything that like kind of strafing the Bernie blackmail like caused him to do. Like he like not kill. He could tie it back to like, him almost getting killed by the Dane when they went out into the woods, and just having to kind of navigate all of the shit that he had to go through in like the second half of the movie. He could tie it back to like, this could have been resolved if I had just killed him, or like, this would have been a lot simpler.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Maybe the humane choice isn't the right choice for me,
Yeah.
So he had to learn how to be a little more selfish in the end. And that's the real message of the movie.
Yeah, I think maybe it is, because we were talking about chasing hats and like trying to make things right for other people, because he was like looking out for Leo at the beginning, and then he was kind of looking out for
Bernie
Casper.
or Casper. Yeah.
And I think
Bernie.
it's also part of his little mantra, because I noticed that he says it twice, where he says, nobody knows anybody, not that well. And so I think at a moment's notice, he's like, yeah, anyone can betray me, but Bernie has already proven that he will. So
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, him learning to be selfish is kind of his deal. But then it's always hard for me with movies that have like really complicated plots because the characters are so smart, and it's like it's like a chess game almost, you know what I'm saying? And he sent Casper and Bernie both to his apartment at 4 a.m. or whatever, and like I had a hard time being able to tell when Tom was like planning things out, like this is what I wanted the whole time, versus when he was just kind of improvising and like trying to make the best out of the bad situation.
I think in that situation, I think whoever survived, I think he was ready. I don't know, because it's like, I think he could have kept, I don't know, I think either way, he would have had to have killed Casper because Bernie's still alive. And then Bernie killed Casper, which was like, a liability to him that Bernie had leverage over. So either way, I think he was prepared to like, whoever survived, I'm taking them out.
Right. Yeah.
I really liked at the beginning, like paying attention to the dialogue and like.
It's usually good with movies. Yeah.
Because they talked about like the whole cast of characters before they introduced them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but every single conversation involved Bernie somehow, like was about Bernie. We didn't meet Bernie until like 30 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really exciting. Like, oh, I can't wait.
It was a good reveal of him like sitting in the chair, and it's like they have that dialogue twice. He's like, "Oh, hello, Bernie."
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, yeah, hope you don't mind. I like let myself in," something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd mind.
Yeah.
They kind of have that. Yeah, that same dialogue again.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. The introduction of the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm really proud of myself for remembering all of their names during the movie, because
they say Bernie enough.
Really hard.
You better remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool that a lot of the people in these movies eventually like just became mainstays in the Coen brothers filmography. I like when like directors use certain characters for different roles, because right after this is Barton Fink, which John Turturro was like the lead in, and then Steve Buscemi is in Fargo. It's just cool to see their,
I've seen Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo's great. Very different.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
I also liked, which felt like also very like Coen brothers-y thing. Like even like some of like the minor henchmen felt like they had a lot of character. Like the older dude who like beats shit out of him, and then the dude who I know from like Dumb and Dumber, but he's the one who he's like, okay, teach him a lesson, and then it's just him in the room, and then Gabriel Byrne like smashes his face with the chair, and he's just like,
the chair.
Jesus, Tom, and he like walks out and gets the old guy to come beat him up. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I was half expecting him to be like, and he like walks away crying or something.
Hold it. Jesus, Tom.
Oh, that is fun. I did notice that because in the Discord, friend of the pod, Chris, said take a drink every time someone says Jesus, Tom.
Yeah.
And then once he pointed that out, I noticed it every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, either that or what's the rumpus?
Oh, apparently Albert Finney was one of the women in the powder room wherever he breaks into to talk to Verna. I guess Albert Finney was in drag. I don't know if it's like the one, like when he walks in, he kind of like face plants into someone's chest, I think, and like she screams. I don't know,
Yeah.
because I did notice one of like the dancers or the artists or the whoever was in that little bathroom area did kind of have a masculine frame, if you will. I think it might have been Albert Finney.
Interesting. Now are we going to go on to scores?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. I'll start.
Sure.
I went with 6 for this one. Just yeah, I liked it. There was a lot of like I said, a lot of like fun characters, a lot of Coen isms. But it just didn't. I don't know if it like really reached any sort of emotional heights for me. I was along for the ride, and it was a fun ride. But nothing super groundbreaking like some of their other ones that I like a lot. But I still enjoyed it. I still, yeah, like I said, still had a good time. I liked. I love seeing Gabriel Byrne in a lead role too. He's a guy that I like to see. Yeah, great cast of characters. Fun stuff. I just, like I said, I also a lot of it brought down by like, I don't know, at least a third of it being devoted to the relationship that I just didn't care about.
Yeah.
that definitely kind of brought down my overall opinion. But still, you know, it's not bad by any means. If you're a Coen Brothers fan, I would of course recommend it. Yeah. So 6.
Cool. I landed about a 7. That's kind of where I was at. Yeah, liked it a good amount. Liked all of the characters, as said. I mean, it's like their third movie, and I guess you can say it less about this one than like their earlier stuff. But like you can see those, you know, early Coenisms, like, you know, stuff that would later define all their other stuff. So it's cool to see like earlier stuff that, you know, informs later stuff, I guess. Yeah. Characters were great. Yeah, their character actors are some of my favorites in any movies. You know, they use M. Emmett Walsh in Blood Simple, and that dude is one of my favorite guys that just shows up all over the place.
Yeah.
The delivery, the snappy line deliveries were great. Cinematography was like nothing really. It just seems very static.
That might have hurt it too, I wonder. Yeah.
Because like they do have a pretty
factor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Deacons would help.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. Performances were pretty good. 7.
Yes.
I'm also gonna give it a 7. I liked it a lot. It was a good time, and I really enjoyed the snappy dialogue. I really enjoyed the story. The romance, TJ, was like, yeah, it wasn't compelling, but for me it didn't like take away from the movie either. I was a big fan of how comfortable all the characters were with violence. Like, you know, like we were talking about with when the guy got smacked with a chair and then it was like, Jesus, Tom. Like, that's his reaction. And then the multiple times that that Tom is in a building that's getting raided by the police, and then he walks out and then has a little chat with the police chief.
I was gonna say that was one of my favorite like staging blocking scenes, was when him and the police chief are like carrying on a conversation as like shit is like tables are being overturned and there's guys fighting and chasing, and there's like, oh yeah, how's it going? Oh, I love that part.
Yeah. That's good.
I liked the symbolism with the hat. I love me some symbolism in a movie, and even if I don't get it all the way, which is definitely the case for this movie, I just tried not to think too hard about it. Because with art, that's how it is sometimes.
Don't go chasing hats, whatever that means to you.
Yeah,
that's what, you know.
Listen to the tailors and the threads that they used to. I was doing the water. Don't go chasing. I mean, this is a TLC.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah, so this one's a 7.
Nice. So I don't know if when I have like a tag like So what have we been watching this week?
Yeah.
So what have we been watching this week?
Good question. I watched a few things. I have Enchanted on the list, but I only put that on there because of the connection it has to a disaster movie.
Oh,
because of the Enchanted Princess.
right.
But Chloe wanted to watch it the other night, so we did. And it was fun. It was a fun kind of Disney princess movie that kind of subverted some of the tropes that genre kind of has. Was it Amy Adams?
Yeah.
The disaster movie actress who played like the Enchanted Princess was pretty spot on for how Amy Adams acts in that movie. Just very, oh my god, and who are you, and what's going on? But it was fun.
Is this the one where like the princess like shows up in New York City?
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the reason that she wanted to watch it was because we're watching 30 Rock, and Prince Edward, who's played by
James Marsden.
James Marsden, is like Liz's boyfriend later on in 30 Rock. So she's like, oh, I really want to watch Enchanted. So we finally did that. But it was fine. I guess some more current news. Barry is back, and it's good. It's pretty much right where it has been in terms of quality. It's fine. I think that they're gonna deal with the circumstances that Barry found himself at the end of season 3. How much of it have you watched, if any, Moose? I don't want to like.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. It's the HBO Bill Hader show where he's like a hitman who joins an acting class.
I saw some commercials for that a while ago.
It's pretty funny. I feel like you might like it, but the 3rd season ended seemingly like, where do they go with it from here?
Yeah.
And I think where they've gone with it is, I don't know, it makes sense. Like it seems like you're really trapped in a corner, but I feel like that show is pretty good at writing themselves into a corner and then finding a way out that it stays true to the show but is also somewhat realistic. So that's kind of where it's at right now. But it's just funny that like my Sunday nights now have been taken by HBO because it's Succession and then Barry back to back. So it's like we're staying up till almost midnight every night now. And then Beef. Have any of you guys watched that?
No.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
I do. Yeah. But I haven't watched it.
Okay. We watched the first episode last night, so we're not like super far into it.
Okay.
It's the new show with Ali Wong and Steven Yeun, who I feel like is having something of a Steven Yeun renaissance lately. I feel like he's I mean, I don't know. I feel like he was in Nope, and I feel like he was in one other prominent thing lately, and now he is like one of those guys that everyone is just like, oh my god, I love this guy. He's in The Walking Dead.
He's been in stuff for a while, I would say. No, I would say like he pretty much since he left The Walking Dead. I mean, he's usually in at least something every year that I watch that I like.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys that like wasn't really on my radar, and then now he's like decidedly on my radar, and I was like, where did he come from?
Yeah.
But the premise of the show, it's like basically a road rage incident kind of has these two characters beefing with each other. Where
I see.
That's he
the
gets
name of the show.
There's more to it. Like it goes into their personal lives that kind of, shapes how they react to the world around them and how they, what makes them like these volatile people. The thing that I'm not super jazzed about, and I feel like it's like a newer thing, but it's written like a Netflix show, if that makes sense. There's a certain writing style that feels very modern. I don't know how to describe it other than like, I don't know, it just seems like a lot of like the streaming service shows kind of kind of do this thing. I feel like an insane person, but there's like a certain way that they write dialogue where it's better than just exposition dumps, but only just better.
Oh.
I don't know. But the action and like the kind of inciting incident and where the first episode leaves off definitely I want to see where it goes. But just that there's just something about the dialogue and the writing that I'm like not extremely jazzed about, but the other stuff is interesting and fun enough that I'm gonna keep coming back for more beef. So watch this space. We can talk about The Prestige like when it comes up in the cup, I guess.
Okay.
I will just say I might have some hot takes about that movie.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
The rose-colored glasses might be off a little bit.
Okay. Then I'll just say I watched In the Mouth of Madness first. And then I was like, I don't know, doing a regular Wikipedia dive after it, and I was like, and I think I'd read this before, but I saw that John Carpenter was like, oh, this is the last movie in what he calls his Apocalypse trilogy. The first of which being The Thing, and then the second being Prince of Darkness. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I got to watch Prince of Darkness now just to wrap it up. And it's only like, so it's a trilogy in the sense of like, all three of those movies have this like ever-present sense of dread in them, and also all kind of end on like, you know, the beginnings of the apocalypse pretty much. There is that more or less in different flavors. You know, with The Thing, it's ambiguous, I guess. Prince of Darkness, it's kind of ambiguous. In the Mouth of Madness, it's not very ambiguous. But yeah, then I just kind of was like, oh, I kind of want to just like, I'm in a John Carpenter mood, and I killed it by watching Ghosts of Mars next. Ghosts of Mars fucking sucks. It's like, it is like almost akin to like Alone in the Dark. Like, it is very, very fucking bad. Just by somebody who is like, you know, a competent director, so it's like not
who knows
as
better.
Messy, and like the action is like at least somewhat fun, but it was fucking garbage. I think I'll go back into it, just like looking at all of the John Carpenter movies I haven't watched yet. I'm like, man, there's still so many that are just so interesting. So I think that's maybe kind of like a side goal that I'm setting for myself, is just to like watch the rest of his filmography, because I had Prince of Darkness and In the Mouth of Madness were both great. I especially loved In the Mouth of Madness. It's an H.P. Lovecraft adjacent. It's not based directly on one, but it is very H.P. Lovecraft inspired. There's an H.P. Lovecraft book called At the Mountains of Madness. So there's even like a sort of parallel there. But it's like Sam Neill plays this like private investigator who's hired by this firm to go find the author, who's like, he's basically like Stephen King. His name is Sutter Kane, and he's like the world's like best-selling author. He writes horror novels and everything, and he goes missing after writing his most recent book, In the Mouth of Madness. But he hasn't like sent it to the publisher, so the publisher's like, yeah, we need you to go find him so we can get the book and we can, you know, put it on the market so we can sell it. And there's all this like, you hear all this chatter of like, oh, people who read Sutter Kane, like people with like who aren't as like strong mentally, like go insane after reading his books and stuff, and you know, they try to go find him, and they end up in this weird town that's like based on, it's called Hobbs End, and it's like where it's basically Sutter Kane's version of Derry, which is like Stephen King's just like, it's his town that's in like all of his stories. Or it's like probably more appropriate is like, it's like H.P. Lovecraft's like Dunwich or Innsmouth, which are like his towns that are in stuff, or like Arkham or whatever. And there's even like references. There's an innkeeper and she has the last name Pickman, and there's a H.P. Lovecraft story called Pickman's Model, and Pickman is kind of it's a surname that you hear in a lot of his stories. So there's a lot of like cool little subtle references if you're familiar with H.P. Lovecraft stories. I kind of think it's like the best version or the best way to do, like, I don't know, I've never seen H.P. Lovecraft is one of those guys that I think is really kind of impossible to do justice on the screen. And so I think this kind of roundabout way that John Carpenter did it, where it's like not exactly an adaptation, it's like it's its own thing, but it's able to like kind of pay homage and kind of parallel what it'd be like, because a lot of H.P. Lovecraft stories are about people like, oh, I'm going to investigate this thing, and I'm going to this weird town, and there's all these weird residents, and I'm losing my mind. And it's like basically giving yourself over to this insanity and these existential, like, otherworldly horrors of, like, you know, the elder things and stuff. And they don't use the word elder things, but I think they call them like the old ones in this.
Okay.
And yeah, it's really well done. The way that and I guess it's not really a spoiler because the movie opens with Sam Neill in an insane asylum after the events of the movie. He has gone insane. He's like drawing crosses all over his face and stuff like that. And
hell yeah.
So the movie is him retelling his story to a psychiatrist who's like interviewing him. Basically after this like series of catastrophic events have happened, but you don't know exactly what. And then like the end of the movie comes and it's like, oh, it's the end of the world pretty much, like, because everything that kind of goes on here. But yeah, it fucking ruled. I really, really loved it. It's like a unsung classic. Like, I think it should be mentioned up there with like They Live, Big Trouble in Little China. Like, it's a great, as far as like, you know, John Carpenter's filmography, I think it's fucking awesome. And then Prince of Darkness, not quite as much, but it was still really fun. A lot of like really disturbing imagery, like genuinely like really like fucked up stuff. Alice Cooper plays like a mute homeless guy who like murders people.
Awesome.
Donald Pleasance is in it. He's Loomis from Halloween, so he comes back.
Nice.
And yeah, that one's more of like a kind of typical like almost zombie-esque movie. It's like it's a really weird concept. It's basically Satan is they have this vial of goo in the basement of this monastery, and it turns out that the goo is like the embodiment of Satan, and it starts like infecting people and turning them into like Satan zombies or whatever. And so it's really silly, but it's good. There's some just two like classic Carpenter flicks. They're really, really fun stuff.
Yeah, I need to get like one of those Arrow Academy or Shout Factory, whatever, like John Carpenter box sets.
Yeah,
because I've seen Escape from New York, The Thing, They Live, and Halloween, and that's really it.
You said Big Trouble in Little China too, right? Did you say
Big Trouble? Yes, yeah, I've seen Big Trouble in Little China. So I guess I've seen like the big ones, the ones that will draw crowds to theaters. You know, they're showing They Live at Wealthy. By the time this comes out, yesterday. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know when. But yeah, they show the big ones. But yeah, I've heard of, you know, In the Mouth of Madness and Prince of Darkness. So yeah, I got to look into those.
Yeah,
and Ghosts of Mars.
Yeah, not so much that one. Yeah, I forgot to mention in Prince of Darkness, it has a couple of the guys from Big Trouble in Little China. It has Egg, the like older guy. He kind of like he always has like one squinty eye. That's just like that guy.
Okay.
And then Wang, he's like the sidekick kind of character.
Okay, I got you.
They're both in Prince of Darkness. And yeah, so that's it.
Nice.
Those are my, I guess, my highlights outside of Miller's Crossing for this week. So
nice.
I mentioned The Cabin at the End of the World, and then like the M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'm reading another book that is a movie. I'm about 100 pages into American Psycho.
Oh, cool.
Have you read that book?
No, I haven't.
No.
It is wild.
Yeah.
It's because if you know anything about the movie, it's about this like sociopathic Wall Street, like very yuppie Wall Street guy, but he has like this like dark
I was thinking
murderous
American Beauty, but that's a different.
Yeah. But this one he's played by Jesus, why can't I think of his
Christian
name?
Bale.
Christian Bale, who's like Batman in the 2000s.
Yeah, I know
Batman.
Christian Bale.
Okay. Okay. I was reading your face and I was like, you know who this is.
yeah.
But yeah, so the book it's from his perspective, and I'm only 100 pages in, so I kind of know where it's going based on like the really famous scenes I've seen of the movie.
Sure.
But the narrative is so funny where every character that he encounters, he describes every aspect of their clothing. Like he's wearing an Armani tie with a Gucci shoes, like double-breasted, sport coat with wool. Like he is so obsessed with like consumer culture where like there's like 2 pages dedicated to like his skincare routine. And it's just like, showing it's almost like I guess the other thing is like Fight Club, where it's like everything in his apartment is perfectly placed in IKEA. It's very like sterile.
It's very like, trust me. And this is a hilarious reference if you're familiar with ancient Greek plays. But it's probably like the equivalent of the naming of the ships section from the Iliad. There's like an entire chapter of the Iliad that is literally like, and from Menelaus's army came 7 ships filled with 14 men and 6 rowers, and then from this person's army. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to read that part in 8th grade.
Yeah. You're like, I feel like I should read this. Like, I feel like this should be important. But then you get done reading it and you're like, it's actually not that important, I guess.
Yeah, not really.
But another aspect about that, which I think makes the book so funny, is that they're constantly, is that so-and-so? Oh, no, that's the other guy. And I think it's because they all wear the same types of clothing and wear the same shoes and belts and ties and loafers and glasses, where like they're constantly mistaking other dudes for other people that they know because they all wear the exact same shit. But the way that he differentiates all of it by saying, oh, this one's double-breasted, this one's like 6 buttons. It's obviously like the famous business card scene. But I think what was making me laugh earlier is just like the way he'll switch from like describing someone's suit to then like describing in detail like pornography that he watched.
Oh my God.
And then he'll be like, and then I have to go home and buy the new Talking Heads CD from Tower Records. Like but he knows like the names of all of the consumer brands. So yeah, I'm only 100 pages in, and I think there's like some really, really graphic violence coming up, but I'm doing my own little book club where I'm, I guess, reading books and then I want to watch the movies. But American Psycho, 100 pages in, pretty interesting.
Cool.
Could probably cut that. Who knows?
Bret Easton Ellis is an author that I wanted to check out. I guess mostly for that, but he's also did Less Than Zero is another one that I want to read.
Oh, okay.
He's had quite a few like adapted into movies. The Rules of Attraction is another one of his too. And of course, American Psycho is supposed to be interesting. Okay. Well, next week's movie, I already pulled it because I thought we were done. Next week's movie is from 2002, directed by Steve Odekirk. Kung Pao, Enter the Fist. This will be interesting. I think because this is actually a Travis edition, and he wasn't sure. And honestly, I don't know if it's in my eyes, it's a normal cut movie, but in your guys' eyes, it might be a dud cup movie. We'll see, but that's okay.
Okay.
Not every movie in the normal cup is going to be a good movie, so we'll see. And I haven't seen this movie in years, so I'm personally interested to see how well I think this holds up. From memory, It's a masterpiece, but we'll see.
We shall see.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for Kung Pao Enter the Fist, it is on. I've just seen it for rent, but it's for rent on a lot of stuff. Google Play, Amazon Prime, YouTube, Redbox, Vudu. So go watch it at one of those before next week's episode. These episodes come out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. EST on YouTube in video form, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more in audio form. We also have social pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And with all that said, I am your... fuck, what does he say? I'm nobody. Look into your heart. What does he say? Because he says it like a million fucking times. I'm your weaselly little Bernie Bum Bum. TJ, aka J. Oh, I'm praying to you. Look in your heart. 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 There we go. TJ, aka J Spot Jack Cheese, and with me as always.
As always, nuts.
Yeah.
AKA Nick, aka Dr. Funk on Twitch, and with me as always,
I'm What's the Rumpus? Whatever's going on, that's me.
What is
Moose,
the rumpus?
AKA Tommy.
Get out of here. I don't know.
Get out of here, toots.